I flew to the Bahamas from Miami, but I was very disappointed because it was very materialistic and I didn't find anybody interested in spiritual life. So I decided to fly back to Miami the next day. But before I flew back, someone stole all my money. So now I don't have anything, no money, no things. But I was so happy when that happened because I knew something wonderful was going to happen. Hare Krishna. My name is Vijaya. I've been asked to say something about how I came to Krishna Consciousness. I was born in Germany. My father was in the military, and I grew up in Los Angeles. I visited one friend in Los Angeles, and on his television set there was one yogi speaking about spiritual subject matters, meditation and yoga and philosophy. It sounded a little interesting, so I found out where their center was in Los Angeles. And it was transcendental meditation. And in this movement, they have you visit them for 3 days and find out about what they believe and what they do. After 3 days, if you want, you can buy a mantra. So in the West, we're very naive. We didn't know that you don't buy mantras. So I bought my mantra, $120 for a 2-syllable mantra. Pretty expensive. But it was good. It kind of helped me to slow down. Every day you meditate twice, 15 minutes in the morning, 15 minutes in the evening. And this is supposed to help you in your spiritual journey. So I was doing that, and it helped me to slow down from my young, passionate life as a young lad in Los Angeles City. So I started reading books on philosophy and different books on yoga. I got this one book by Baba Ram Dass, Be Here Now. And it's also very interesting. So after some time I thought Los Angeles is probably not a good place to do spirituality, so I decided to leave Los Angeles in search of a paradise where I could go and associate with like-minded people and advance in my spiritual journey. So I went traveling. I had this book by Baba Ram Dass I was still reading, and in the book he mentions that as one advances in spiritual life, one becomes detached from family, friends, material things, money, things like this. And I thought, all right, that makes sense. You go on a spiritual journey, become detached from material things. So as I was traveling, someone stole all my belongings. So I thought, okay, it's good. Didn't give it up on my own, it was taken from me, all right, that's okay. So I just continued my journey. I was thinking that the Bahamas would be a good place. Maybe there's some spiritual movements there. So I flew to the Bahamas from Miami. But I was very disappointed because it was very materialistic and I didn't find anybody interested in spiritual life. So I decided to fly back to Miami the next day. But before I flew back, someone stole all my money. So now I don't have anything, no money, no things. But I was so happy when that happened because I knew something wonderful was going to happen in my life, because these things never happened before, all these things stolen from me. So I knew some higher power was making some nice arrangement for me. So actually I'd never been so happy in my life up to that point, because I knew something's going to happen. I'll never again go back to material life. So I was kind of waiting for the next page to unfold. So I flew back to Miami, not knowing where I'm going. So I started hitchhiking. Someone picked me up and said, "So where are you going?" I don't know. God has me on some journey and I don't know where I'm going, but I like it. So he said, "Well, you're going to need some money wherever you're going, so maybe go down to Key West." Key West is the southernmost city in mainland America, Florida. So I went down to Key West, got a job. I'm still reading this book by Baba Ram Dass. Somehow I still had this book. And in the back of the book, he had books recommended to read. And one of them was Bhagavad-Gita. So when I saw those two words, Bhagavad-Gita, I thought, wow, this sounds like a really interesting book. So I went to the public library, and there was 4 different Bhagavad-Gitas. So I thought, now which one? Fortunately, the Bhagavad-Gita by our BBT made their Bhagavad-Gita more attractive than the others. So I chose Prabhupada's Bhagavad-Gita. So I took it home, and it was amazing. I couldn't put it down. I read it in like 3 days. And from reading Prabhupada's Bhagavad-Gita, I started chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. There's many places Prabhupada recommends the chanting of Hare Krishna. So I threw out the old mantra from Transcendental Meditation, which was kind of dry anyway. And I started chanting Hare Krishna. And I had this job in Key West where there was no one around, so I was just chanting Hare Krishna all day long. And Krishna was giving me some special mercy because it was a real spiritual lift. So I really liked the chanting of Hare Krishna. So I was doing that for 3 days, just chanting Hare Krishna all day long at this place where I was working. And then after 3 days of chanting, I walked out of my workplace, and 100 meters from the exit, devotees were having Harinam. There's 2 devotees having Harinam on the pier there. And I walked over to them and I said, "Hey, you're chanting the same mantra I chant, Hare Krishna." And they said, "You chant Hare Krishna?" I said, "Yeah, I've been chanting Hare Krishna all day long in that building for 3 days." I said, "Wow." So they preached to me for a couple hours. And then they said, "You know, we have an ashram here in Key West. If you want, you can come." I said, "All right, I'll come over." So I moved in that night with the devotees. But it wasn't a temple, it was like a preaching center. Just a few devotees trying to keep something together there in Key West. So they said, "You know, there's a real temple in Miami. So we suggest you go to Miami and you can get some bhakti training." So I said, "All right." So I went to Miami. The Miami temple was very beautiful. It was 8 acres, or some go by hectares, maybe 3 or 4 hectares. It's a big piece of property. And 6 acres was just flowers. We used to send flowers to all the temples in America for their deity worship. So my first service was picking flowers for flower distribution around the country. And on this property there was also 80 mango trees. And they were good mangoes, very good mangoes. So we had mango ice cream, mango cake, mango pie, mango chutney. We had mangoes coming out our ears. So many mangoes. And we had banana trees. It's the only tropical place on mainland America. So it was very tropical, very beautiful. There was peacocks and there was ducks and there was all kinds of nice tropical plants. So when I left Los Angeles, I was searching for paradise. So that was the most wonderful paradise that I ever lived in, actually. And also the devotees were so nice. There was about 25 devotees there, and very nice devotees and nice atmosphere. So I was very happy to go to the Miami temple. It was called Nunaimer Forest. Beautiful temple. So that's how I joined. I was picking flowers in the beginning, and they also had me washing Krishna's pots. So those are my services. And then at one point, the temple president, Narahari Prabhu, he asked me if I'm a little bold. I said, yeah, I can be pretty bold. He said, all right, we're going to try you out on book distribution. So I was going to the streetlights in Miami, and it was very difficult. I was doing BTGs at that time. I was doing about 7 BTGs an hour. And it was very difficult because there was a lot of other groups that were going to the streetlights, and a lot of people had already been approached, so it was very difficult. There was a lot of no's, a lot of rejection. So it was difficult. So I decided at one point I should learn a verse in the Bhagavad-Gita that will help me through this difficult period. So I went to the temple that night and I found this Bhagavad-Gita verse. Yang hi nav yati yantyete purusang purusarsava samadukha sukham dhiram somatadvaya kalpate. Krishna says that one who is not disturbed by happiness and distress and is steady in both is certainly eligible for liberation. So I meditated on that verse, that we shouldn't be disturbed by happiness and distress. It's just a temporary thing. So that was very inspiring for me. A verse from the 2nd chapter of the Bhagavad-Gita. So then after some time, they could see that I had some success in book distribution, so they asked me to go to the Miami airport and distribute books. Now that was a whole another different level of book distribution. This is where you're stopping and you're talking to people, businessmen, scientists, engineers, and it was very interesting. I had to present the book to them and convince them to take the book and give a donation. So it was another level of book distribution. Very nice. I distributed books in the Miami airport for about 12 years. And then I went to Los Angeles, distributed books in Los Angeles airport for about 4 years. And then I heard about table book distribution from Ganapati Maharaj, who's been distributing books at universities for the past maybe 35 years. And he taught me how to distribute books at the tables at universities. Now this went into a whole other style of book distribution, which is my favorite type of book distribution. So many students come by, you don't have to stop them, they come to the table and you just explain the teachings of the Bhagavad-Gita. And they're very enthusiastic to get Prabhupada's books. We're very fortunate in America because we have this freedom of speech, freedom of religion, amendment right. So any public place in the country, we can go and we could distribute Prabhupada's books. So it's a very nice way to present Krishna consciousness. After distributing books for 24 years, the GBC, they asked me to be the minister of book distribution because they could see that I was steadily doing it, and I was also traveling around giving seminars on book distribution. So now my service changed even more. I was still distributing books at the universities, but then my traveling increased much more. So I was traveling, still am, about 7 months of the year, just traveling around the world trying to increase book distribution. And what I try to express the most to the devotees that are distributing books, is that we want to distribute books, but to distribute the books, we have to be very inspired to read the books. If we don't read the books, then there won't be the necessary enthusiasm and inspiration to distribute the books. And Prabhupada was even on a morning walk with some devotees in one country where they were doing a lot of book distribution, and the devotees were telling Prabhupada on this morning walk how many books they were distributing. And Prabhupada was impressed, and then he asked him, but are you reading the books? And they said, well, Prabhupada, we're traveling so much, and we're distributing, and we're cooking, we're doing so many things, it's hard to find time to read. And Prabhupada responded, then what is the use? Because he understood, if they're not hearing regularly, then they're going to lose a taste for book distribution and Krishna consciousness in general. So reading Prabhupada's books is very, very, very important. And what inspires me the most to distribute books is the Bhagavad-Gita. The Bhagavad-Gita is my favorite book by far. It's such a great inspiration. It never gets old. And Vijaya Prabhu, a good friend of mine, he inspired me to get on this program called the CHAD program, which means chapter a day of Bhagavad Gita. So every day I read a chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, just the English, and then I have another bookmarker place where I read the translation and the purport. So this gives great inspiration to distribute books. And of course there's so many nice experiences that we have on book distribution. Because book distribution, it's a transcendental activity. Srila Prabhupada says, as one continues on, engaged in devotional service, distributing books, one enters into the mysterious region of transcendence. It's a very nice region. Because Lord Vishnu says, Naham tishtami vaikunte yoginam hridayestava. He says, I'm not in Vaikuntha, I'm not in the hearts of the yogis, but I am wherever my devotees are spreading my glories. So when we go on book distribution, Krishna is there. And many devotees have felt the presence of Krishna on book distribution. And it's a nice feeling. And Prabhupada even said, he said, if you go out on book distribution, you're going to meet Krishna. So many devotees have had this experience, and this is why many devotees have been distributing books for decades and decades, because it's a very, very pleasing activity. It's good for us who distribute books. It's good for the people who receive the books. It's very pleasing to Krishna. It's very pleasing to Prabhupada. So it's a win-win situation. Before I joined the Hare Krishna movement, I had studied many different religions. I grew up a Christian, read the Bible, the Quran, looked into Buddhism. And at one point I was even, I took the atheistic path. But that turned out didn't make sense either. So I was still searching, wanted to know what is the truth. So when I found the Bhagavad-Gita, that pretty much answered all my questions, and in a very clear way. So I was very satisfied with the guidance that Krishna and Srila Prabhupada gave. And one verse that really struck my attention was that this process is joyfully performed. Raja Vidya Raja Guyam Pavitramidam Uttamam Pratyaksa Bhagamangdam Sukham Kartam Avitam. That this is a process which is joyfully performed. And I've experienced that. that the spiritual life, this chanting of Hare Krishna, engaged in devotional service, it brings inner pleasure, inner happiness. And this is what everyone is searching for, inner happiness. And what I've found is that by chanting Hare Krishna, by hearing this absolute truth from the Bhagavad-Gita, the Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, that I experience this inner happiness. So when you get a higher taste, this higher happiness through spiritual life, then you don't look further. You're satisfied. You become Atmaram, self-satisfied. So this is the wonderful result of practicing Krishna consciousness, that we experience this joy that everyone is searching for. The nature of the soul is eternality, knowledge, and bliss. So this process of Krishna consciousness helps one to experience this eternality, this pleasure, and this knowledge. So I encourage anyone that's interested in reaching the higher levels of the human form of life to practice this chanting, to read Bhagavad-Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, and I'm sure that you'll find that you'll get a great deal out of this. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.